Ah, Toyota, the brand that never fails to amaze, whether it be with their incredibly reliable economy cars or their incredibly influential sports cars. Toyota is going to put 100% effort into making something worth driving. And in the year 1983, they would take one of their boring cars and turn it into one of the most popular cars to come from Japan. I am Mark Roden, and this is a deep dive on the Toyota AE86. The AE86 is a cultural icon that got its legacy through one of the most relatable ways possible. It was the underdog. In the late 70s or early 80s, Japan didn't have much of a hold on the American market yet, probably because they just blew up our naval port and not many people are going to take too kindly to that. So in an effort to bridge the gap between American consumers and the wonderful engineering of Japan, a couple of big names emerged onto the scene. Those names would be Honda, Datsun, which is now Nissan, and most importantly, Toyota. At first, it wasn't that cool. They were just building like economy cars so they could make that sweet cheddar. But over time, Japanese companies realized that there actually was a market for Japanese sports cars in Japan, probably due to the success of cars like the Celica or the 240Z. And so they started to give us what we wanted. The Corolla has always been just a car that could get you from point A to point B reliably and for pretty cheap. But when they first came out, they were actually a rear-wheel drive platform, which obviously hasn't happened in many years for the Corolla, and that's because in 1984 they made the switch to front-wheel drive. The benefits were just too good for an economy car at the time, which I know it's hard, but that was probably a good decision for Toyota's future. But I know what you're thinking right now. Mark, the AE86 was not front-wheel drive at all. This guy's an idiot. I'm gonna unsubscribe and light his house on fire. Distinguish that flame, please, because you are correct. Toyota had probably the smartest decision they ever had and said to themselves, well, we know that people won't be happy going to front-wheel drive, so why not we make this generation Corolla have a rear-wheel drive version and make it more sport-oriented. So that's what they did. They gave the consumers a front-wheel drive model Corolla, but gave us car guys a rear-wheel drive model with not one, but two different body styles. You had the two-door coupe that I personally think looks amazing, or the much more popular three-door liftback, which is the one that everybody knows and loves. On top of that, they gave you the option of having either fixed headlights in what they called the Levin, or pop-up headlights for what they called the Truno or whatever you want to call it. And boy oh boy, no matter what freaking combo you go with, they look so simple yet so good, these 86s. But besides the wonderful styling of this new gen Corolla sports car, Toyota offered much more than that. What, you thought all they did was make it freaking look different but add no power upgrades? Psh, what do you think this is, bud? The freaking Audi S4? No, pal, you are so wrong that it hurts. At launch of the new AE86, they also offered a brand new engine to accompany the beautiful new styling behind it, and they called that little engine the Mother Truckin' 4A GE, without the mother trucking in front of it, which at the time was probably Toyota's most amazing engine ever built. No, the 2JZ was not built yet. You can delete the comment you were about to write. I know that the 2JZ is probably the most legendary, but it wasn't built yet, buddy. But this new engine on paper really doesn't scream at you as something worth like raving about, and that's because it's pretty small. Like, it was a 1.6 liter inline 4, small, that only made 128 horsepower, small. And as we all know, that ain't that fast, buddy old pal, but it's what accompanies the engine of the AE86 that made it so great. The engine was built with a cast iron block to make it strong, and an aluminum head for some good old weight reduction, and it had the red line of, are you ready? Are you ready for this, buddy? 7,800 RPMs. That's like a pretty damn high red line, ladies and gentlemen. And arguably the most important stat about the car is that it only weighed in at 2,300 pounds. For reference, the NA Miata that everybody loves because it's so small and nimble was only 100 pounds lighter than this car. Oh, and I know what you're thinking. Yeah, but the Miata had a 50-50 weight distribution. Well, you have fallen into my trap, sir, because the 86 also had a 50-50 weight distribution, making this car such a handling monster with an engine to back it up if you ever needed to. This car was built for racing. It wanted to go fast, and Toyota did everything in its power to make people realize that it could do that. But sadly, the world didn't really like it at first. People weren't understanding the pure genius behind this car, and they just wanted to go as fast as possible in a straight line. After all, you go outside right now and ask a man from the 80s what the hell a toge is, and he'll probably tell you it's some Asian restaurant. These cars just were not worth it to these people compared to the competition, and so they didn't sell that well. I mean, on paper, even Toyota themselves had a stronger lineup with the Celica Supra and the MR2. And even though the 86 was far more affordable than those cars, people were still not impressed. However, in motorsport, that's a completely different story. Race car drivers don't look at top speed and mass appeal, they look at what really matters, and the freaking 86 was paired with some cutting edge technology like McPherson struts in the front, a limited slip differential, and an oil cooler, which paired with the fact that it had a 50-50 weight distribution and an engine that could not only rev to 7,800 RPM stock, but also make significantly more power with some simple mods to it. It absolutely dominated in the motorsport world. Racers all over the place were picking these cars up left and right for Group A and Group N racing, and they were doing really good. So due to the fact that they weren't loved by the general public, but they were very successful in motorsport, it was only a matter of time before the street racers would get their hands on them. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the Hashiraya of Japan. By the way, I know I'm probably butchering that word, but I'm sorry. The Hashiraya, simply means street racers in Japanese, and the Hashiraya, would mainly race in the mountains of Japan, or the Toge. Why, you may ask? Oh, maybe because they were younger people who didn't have the money to go to the track or build just an absolute monster of a car, but they still wanted to try their best to push themselves and their cars, so they would bring it to the next best place. The mountains. So pretty much they didn't need these huge powerful motors or perfectly paved roads to have a good time. All they needed was a car that they could control and some twisty corners. And guess what car fell perfectly into that category? On top of toge racing becoming more and more popular, a new form of motorsport had really begun to gain popularity in Japan called drifting. You ever heard of it? Yeah, well, drifting was another motorsport that had young people happy as hell to race in because you could do it in pretty much whatever car, as long as it was rear-wheel drive. And eventually the young people caught on, and yet again, the Toyota AE86 made for a perfect candidate for a drift car. It was very cheap, it was very lightweight, and it was rear-wheel drive, comes with a limited slip differential, a pretty good motor to tune. That's all you need. So due to the rise of success in the drifting and toge world, someone realized these people's culture is actually very fascinating and worth bringing to the rest of the world. So they made a TV show about it. Technically, it was an anime, I suppose, but still, it's a show that aired on TV, so I'm going to call it a TV show. This show was called Initial D. A show that was all about the wonderful street racing culture of Japan. It was Fast and Furious before Fast and Furious was a thing, and it was a hit. Over the years, I would argue it has become even more popular, and at this point, the main character's car has become a pop culture icon. And take a wild freaking guess as to what car the main character drove. That's right, buddy. The AE86 was such a popular choice for the Hashiraya that it landed its spot as the protagonist vehicle of choice, showing the rest of the world what the true potential of the 86 was. So now that the rest of the world could see how cool this 86 was to the people in Japan, they of course wanted to get a taste of the action. And with the rising popularity of Japanese cars in the United States, it was only a matter of time before people started buying these things up left and right to hopefully become the next Takumi. The AE86 started its life as an affordable sports car that was catered to the people who didn't want speed to die. And thanks to the internet and the Hashiraya, us car guys and gals did not let this car become a thing of the past, and slowly over time, it has regained that title. Well, maybe not the affordable part. It's ironic actually, because in Initial D, the show that made this car so popular, we follow the underdog who is fighting his way to the top to prove to people he's not just another kid who has a car, without realizing that we're actually watching two characters go through that story, Takumi Fujiwara and the Toyota AE86. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video on what makes the Toyota AE86 so great. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what reviews I'd like to see in the comment section down below. Check the links in the description for any of my other social medias or any of my other YouTube channels or any of that great mumbo jumbo. And as you guys know, we have recently did a little bit of a schedule change, a upload change, I guess you could say, on the channel. We're now, instead of uploading 6 times per week, every day, Sunday through Friday, we are instead going with a quality over quantity approach and only uploading 3 times per week, once on Monday, once on Wednesday, and once on Friday. Wednesday being a top 25 cheap cars video, Friday being a new what makes it great video, and Monday being a re-upload of a very old what makes it great video, which is today's video, obviously, a re-upload on what makes the Toyota AE86 so great. And the reason why we're doing that, again, quality over quantity for sure. Once we end the re-uploads, though, the Mondays will be taken up with either vlogs or how to build series. So that's the plan going forth. I hope you guys are okay with that. But really quick, if anybody's still watching and anybody is interested and anybody's very smart, I am looking for an editor for these videos. So if you watched today's video and thought to yourself, hey, I could edit something like that. I could easily edit that. That's not hard for me at all. I could definitely get the background clips, put it all together, give the credits where credit is due, put in the funny memes and things like that. Or if you know somebody that could, please feel free to reach out at ss.markey on Instagram. I do have an email, but I never check my email, to be honest, so that probably won't work. But yeah, please try to reach out to me. Try to maybe even just leave a comment. It might work if I see the comment. I get a lot of comments, obviously, and so I don't see them all, unfortunately. But if I do see it, maybe it'll work. But yeah, I'm looking for an editor for these videos. I know somebody's gonna be like, why don't you just try Fiverr? I have tried Fiverr. I've tried like 15 different guys from Fiverr at this point, and every single one of them doesn't know enough about cars to make the videos accurate. I remember I made one talking about a certain car, I forget what it was, and at one point during that video I mentioned the McLaren F1, and I wanted a picture on screen of a McLaren F1 at that point, and instead he put a picture up on screen of the McLaren P1. And it's like, yeah, it's, for a non-car guy, they're probably, oh, it's just the same thing, what's the big deal, it's no big difference. But obviously to us, two car guys, talking about a McLaren F1 and showing a McLaren P1 on the screen would be horrible for viewership, and people would just be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, even though I do. It's my editor that didn't know what he was doing. So that's why I couldn't reach out with Fiverr. So again, if anybody is interested in editing or whatever like that, please let me know. But yeah, not tomorrow's video, but the next video on Wednesday is going to be top 25 cheap cars, and then on Friday we are going to be doing the what makes it great on a new car. I don't know what it's going to be just yet. I'm thinking probably the Nissan Altima, what makes the Nissan Altima so great, and we'll go through all the generations of the Nissan Altima. But yeah, I still don't really know too much when it comes to that, so we'll have to see. It's either going to be a Nissan Altima or like BMW 3 Series, something, whatever it may be. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.